Well, you've gotten this far. Congratulations. We are still working through the Lopez Family packet. I'm going to show you the most missed question in the whole packet for learning how to use pedigrees. And again, here's the learning goal that we're working through. I can use a pedigree to diagram the inheritance of a trait or a genetic condition through several generations of the same family or of one family. Okay, that's where we are rolling. So let's get out of there. Let's go to the packet that we've been working in. Here's the Lopez Family packet. Now, this is the most missed packet or most missed pedigree in the whole packet. Not because it's difficult, but because when students read this, they see that there's not a lot of room here, and they go, oh, well, whatever we're supposed to do must be on the next page. And they just turn it over, and actually, that's not 12 anymore, it's 13. So most students get it wrong, not because they don't know how to do it, but because they just skip it. They don't actually do this. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is what you should probably do, which is read this and then try to draw a small one right here. But I realize that we're not really solid on this just yet, so we might need more room than this. So what I think we will do in this case is we're actually going to rip the packet apart. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to move that page out of the way. All right, so first we're going to read this, and then we're going to actually draw, okay, that pedigree right here before number 13 begins. Number 13 is a new pedigree, okay? So let's read what number 12 is asking us to do. Number 12. Make a pedigree. So now you're going to draw one of these. Okay? This is the next step in learning is after you're, as you are trying to learn how to work with them, let's learn how to draw one too. Make a pedigree using the following information. Okay? Here's the information. It starts with the most important word you're going to read in this whole line. Grandma. Okay. That is a huge clue. Because if there's a grandma, that means she has grandchildren. So right away, how many generations, at least how many generations is this pedigree going to have? 3. Because if there's a grandma, the only way she can be a grandma is if she has grandkids. Okay? And when we're talking about pedigrees, we're talking about biological grandchildren. Okay? That's what we're talking about. Because, again, we're talking about the passage of traits from one generation to the next, and that is happening through biology. Okay? So that's why we focus on that during this time. Grandma has the recessive trait of no dimples, and Grandpa has heterozygous 4 dimples. Okay, right away, she is homozygous, she is recessive for the trait, which means if she's recessive for the trait, she's homozygous recessive. So I'm going to move me down here because down here doesn't matter. Okay, so Grandma is married to Grandpa. Okay, we got that part. And it said that she has the recessive trait. Okay, the recessive trait of no dimples. All right, we're back here. She is recessive. She gets shaded in. Unless the question tells you otherwise, all homozygous recessives get shaded in. She is recessive. Now, we know her geno and her phenotype. She doesn't have dimples. And it told us she's homozygous recessive. So she gets little d, okay, homozygous recessive. And the question told us that Grandpa does have dimples. He is heterozygous. The question just told us that, okay? It's not making us do any guesswork at all so far. Now, what do we do for heterozygous shapes? We make a slash. Or you can shade half of that shape in if you like, but whatever you choose, shade or slash, please be consistent. Okay. So we have grandma, we have grandpa. Now there's more. They, move me again. There we go. Okay. Grandpa has the alleles 4 dimples. They have 4 children, 1 boy and 3 girls. Okay? They only tell us that in this order. Therefore, we can assume that that's the birth order. 1 boy, 3 girls. Okay? They have 4 children, 1 boy, 3 girls. So, one boy, 3 girls. Okay, so far so good. They have 1 boy, 3 girls. The boy without dimples, they just told you his phenotype. The boy without dimples, therefore he is shaded in. The question just told us that. He is homozygous recessive. Okay? The boy without dimples married a woman with dimples. Oh, and you don't have to guess here because they gave you her genotype. So he married, who I'm sure is a lovely lady. Okay? He married a lady who has dimples and gave us the homozygous dominant genotype. Boy, they're not making you work just yet. They're taking it easy on you in this packet. Okay? The boy without dimples married a woman with dimples. They had 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. Okay? They had 4 children, 2 boys and since that's the order they give it to us, then that's the order that we'll draw it. 2 boys, 2 girls, which is fine, just like that. Okay? So far you're following along just fine. When you make your pedigree, be sure and include the line for the heterozygous, shading for homozygous recessives, and no shading for homozygous dominant. Okay, so according to the question, okay, I'm going to leave it like this. Are we done? No. We are not done. Okay? Now, we need to figure out what their kids are. We need to find out what their kids are. And by the way, we already know what grandma and grandpa's children have. We already know. Because you cross this with that, you're going to get 50% chance heterozygous, 50% chance homozygous recessive. Only one of these shapes is shaded in. So all these other kids right here are heterozygous. Just because there's a 50% chance doesn't mean that 50% of them are always going to come out with one and 50% the other. In this case, every child had a 50-50 chance of coming out homozygous recessive or heterozygous. That doesn't mean that 50% of all the children are going to come out that way. He is the only one who came out with homozygous recessive. They are not shaded, which means they are heterozygous. Now, we need to figure out their kids, okay? So we need to run a quick Punnett square between these 2 parents. But you really don't have to write it down. Because you know, because you are a Punnett squares genius, if you cross this genotype with that genotype, what are you going to get 100% of the time? Heterozygous, every time. Shall I prove it to you? Yes? Okay, I shall. This is a Punnett square for these two parents, just to prove it to you. Okay? He was the lead of our question, so I'll put him here. She is the spouse, right here. Look at that. Everything you're going to get, every chance, every 25% chance in here is going to be heterozygous all the way around. Okay? So each time they cross, there's a 100% chance that that child is going to come out heterozygous. Okay? So all of these kids should be heterozygous. You should put a slash or a half shade in all of their shapes, and you should write their genotypes. Okay, now you're done. Now you're done with number 12. You have genotypes for every individual. You have also every shade or marking that needs to be in each shape. Every shape has a genotype. Every shape has the right marking. Or, in the case of the homozygous dominant, no marking. Because that's what homozygous dominant shapes get. Okay, that is number 12. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, you don't really need me for number 13, other than to tell you this. This is the only pedigree that you're going to see in this packet where you're going to see these right here, these little lines. Okay? And yes, this should have been connected. And I don't know why that never gets connected. These little lines here are just for you to be able to write. It's a space for you to write the genotypes when you figure out what genotype goes with what shape. That's all that these are for. If you notice, they are nowhere else in this packet. Okay, so don't get confused by these. That's just for you to say, like, well, this is heterozygous because it's a shape that has a slash through it. And right in question 13, we're dealing with the letter E. So this shape gets heterozygous E's. Okay, and unless the question tells you otherwise, all shaded shapes are homozygous recessive. So this shape gets these letters. That's all that these are there for. They're just there for you to write the genotypes. Okay, and then when you fill that out, it's got 6 questions for you about the pedigree that you just filled in for number 13. Okay, number 13 is very easy. They give you the information, you just have to write in the genes. That's all. Okay, this is help for number 12, the most missed pedigree in all of the packet.